I've had 5 C-sections, and I have not been told a single thing about recovery other than taking ibuprofen and Advil.
Yeah, I bet not.
Nothing. Not a I didn't know there was anything you could do. It was just like, take ibuprofen.
Hi, I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 5 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. I hope you are having a wonderful week. And I apologize ahead of time if you can hear my family in the background. They are usually either out of the house or upstairs or something when I'm recording. But right now they're all right outside in the living room decorating our Christmas tree, or finishing decorating the tree, I should say. One of my to-do list items before we have this sweet baby who's due any day now was to decorate for Christmas and get all of our Christmas stuff up, because I knew once I had the baby that I was not going to be doing that. And I'm the one who usually handles that. So I wanted to make sure it was done ahead of time. And I also just sort of envisioning, not that I know how birth is going to turn out, obviously, or how everything's going to unfold, but I'm envisioning a living room, fireplace, Christmas tree ambiance for this upcoming birth. So I kind of wanted to have everything set up. And now that I'm, 39 weeks and a few days, we're getting closer, and just wanted to have it all set. We were always a real tree, Christmas tree family forever. Always went out and got a real tree every year. But oh my goodness, was that getting so expensive year after year? The prices were going up and up and up and up. And when we got married, we got a great tree for $25, like a live tree for $25. And now you can't even find a decent one for less than $125. It's wild. So we bit the bullet 2 years ago and found a pre-lit fake Christmas tree right after Christmas. Facebook Marketplace got a steal on it. Somebody was moving and needed to get rid of it fast. And so we went and picked it up. So we got to use it last year for the first time. And it was amazing because it's tall and we have vaulted ceilings in our living room. So it was beautiful. But right at the end of the year, something happened. I don't know what happened, but like it overheated or something. And like the outlet where it was plugged in was like melted, and there were so many bulbs that had blown out and burnt out. And we just sort of, in my mind, I was like, oh, well, we'll just figure that out next year. So we put it away for the season because it was after Christmas. And when we got it out this year, I was like, oh yeah, we have to fix those bulbs, thinking it was going to be this easy solution. It was not. My husband was individually replacing each burnt out bulb one by one. And it was so tedious. It was taking hours. And so we finally just said, okay, we're just going to buy some stranded lights and put it up on this fake pre-lit Christmas tree that is not lighting. So we kind of gave up. But anyways, our kids were dying because I told them we can't put any ornaments on till the lights are done. But of course, the lights were taking hours and hours and hours and hours to try and fix. So they were thrilled tonight when we finally, I'm recording this at night, when we finally told them they could put ornaments on the tree. So I'm sure after they go to sleep tonight, I will have to go and reorganize the ornaments a little bit, because I don't know about your kids, but our kids tend to put them all in one big spot where they can reach, and then the top of the tree is naked. So, and we have a 2-year-old too, so I have to move some stuff up for him, because you know how that is. So anyways, I'll be doing that here shortly after they're in bed. But I hope you guys are, let's see, not this week's not Thanksgiving, that's next week. Okay, I hope you're gearing up to prepare if you have travel plans, anything like that. I hope everything is going well. I honestly would love to still be pregnant at Thanksgiving, even though I'll be, 45, I think, by that point. I would love to still be pregnant. And that's my goal. Not that I have any control over it, but I have a pretty good track record of still being pregnant at that point in the pregnancy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You guys will know when I have this baby because even though I'm actually officially done recording podcasts until, after a couple months of maternity leave from the podcast, my husband will still be editing them. So we stocked up a bunch of episodes. So he's going to still be editing them, but I'm going to put a little pre-recorded intro for after the baby comes. So you'll know whenever the baby comes. So it won't be a live week by week, but you'll know when he's here one way or the other. And I'll also probably make a little post on Instagram. So would love your prayers as we head into this birth, whenever it may be, whether it's this week or next week or who knows, 42 weeks, we've run the gamut here. So it could be any of those times, but thank you in advance for your prayers. We really appreciate them. Okay, let's get into this week's episode. What happens when you're planning a natural, unmedicated birth at a birth center, and then one little leak of your waters changes everything? EJ's plans were turned upside down when she was suddenly being induced, quite unsuccessfully, and then in the end landed in a C-section under general anesthesia. What she didn't know at the time is that she would go on to have 4 more C-sections and a second and very unexpected miscarriage. Where was God in all of this? How was he working through all of these circumstances? Find out as you listen to EJ tell her story. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have EJ with me today. EJ, if you could just take a minute or two, introduce yourself, tell us about you and your life, and help us to get to know you before you share your stories.
Yes, thank you for having me, Kayla. I live in Minnesota, born and raised in Minnesota. I did live in Michigan and South Dakota just for a little bit during college, but otherwise, always Minnesota. And I grew up in a very good home, wonderful parents who were super active then, are super active now, but not a Bible reading home. And I say it that way because I want to make sure that I show respect to my parents because they did a very good job of being parents. And I was taught to be honest and work hard, and there was lots of love, and I spent tons of time with my family and all those sorts of things. However, we were not reading the Bible or praying or doing any of those sorts of things, which I'm happy to say, very, very happy to say, praise the Lord, that that is different as of just like a year ago.
Wow.
My parents are very active in a church now, right by their neighborhood. They can walk there, and they're in a small group. They're reading the Bible. Like we just went to the Minnesota State Fair yesterday, which is one of the largest, most popular state fairs in the whole country. And there was a booth. They're always there. It's called Crossroads Chapel. They have Bibles out. They had like kid coloring books that were Bible themed, tons of different kinds of Bibles and devotionals and things like that. My mom's picking up stuff from there to have at their house for the kids, picking up stuff there just for herself and my dad. And so that's really wonderful and really cool. So like I said, really healthy, good growing up, but was not a Bible reading home.
When you say was not a Bible reading home, do you mean like they were unbelievers, they didn't believe in the Lord, you didn't go to church? Or do you mean like we were like quote unquote Christian, but we weren't like active in the faith at all?
Yeah, the latter. So
Okay.
like we absolutely believed that God was real. I've never heard my parents say otherwise. Like I think as far as I know, all of their lives they've believed that God is real. And we would go to church on Christmas and Easter as well as a handful of other times throughout the year. We thought church was a good thing.
Yeah.
But sports took precedent. We did
Hmm.
traveling sports all year round, and so the majority of Sundays we were on, the basketball court, the tennis court, or the softball field.
And how many siblings do you have?
Just one sister, a
Okay.
young sister. She played the same sports I did. My dad coached either one of us or both of us, like all of the sports. I coached a lot. Like we were moral people and we believed that God was real. And we would have even, I think any of us would have even said, we wouldn't know much about the theological reasons behind atonement theories or anything like that. But we would have said, yes, Jesus died on the cross for our sins. And that's why we get to go to heaven. But
Gotcha.
like not much knowledge, but beyond that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, everybody in my family has always believed in God, but it kind of ended there. And we would go
Yeah.
to church here and there, but it wasn't a priority either. It was a good thing, but it wasn't a priority.
So when did that change for you? Or is that somewhere in the middle of your birth stories?
No, it's not actually. My mom had me a month before she turned 21, very young. And basically, it was a one-time thing and my dad, who I refer to as my dad, it's been my dad my whole life. Everybody knows as my dad. He's been there since before I was born. So, it's really cool with my parents. So my mom played golf in college, my dad played tennis in college, and those two teams went on a spring break trip together to Florida from Minnesota, and they had assigned seats on the airplane, and my parents were assigned next to each other. And this was during the time where they put the March Madness basketball brackets on the back of the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the USA Today that does that. And my mom had been filling they hadn't talked yet. They were sitting next to each other, but they hadn't talked to each other yet, and she was filling that out and set it on her seat to go to the bathroom. Came back and my dad was looking at what she had picked, and that's how they first started talking. She did not know that she was pregnant with me at this time.
Oh, gotcha.
And they fell in love immediately, like, and have been in love ever since. It was, very much love at first conversation. They
Yeah.
walked on the beach while they were down there together, talked on the phone for hours and hours every night, all that sort of thing. And my mom got home from this trip. She realized she was pregnant, and she had only ever done anything. She was very, good, straight and narrow kid who had done this one thing that she shouldn't have done
One
and
time. Yeah.
one time. And now she met the love of her life, who she's head over heels for. And now she has to tell him that she's pregnant. Like crazy.
Right.
And of course, you would expect that upon hearing that news, my dad, who's only known this, young lady for a couple weeks, would be like, okay, well, see ya.
Right.
Right.
Bye.
And he wasn't at all, like, not even a little. Like, he was there. And he has been steady the whole time. And he's been my dad since before I was born. So that's my dad. And then my biological father, I did have to visit when I was younger, and I would be absolutely just mortified to go on visits, right? And how hard that was for my parents, where your kid is screaming and crying and doesn't want to go. That's what it was like, but they had to. There was a lot of manipulation and like psychological abuse and stuff that went on there. And there was a time when I was maybe 5 where I was sent to a room to like be in a timeout for not doing anything wrong is basically what happened. And I was sitting on the floor in the room and I can still picture it because it felt like I was looking at myself, like I was out of body. And I remember very clearly. I mean, I don't have very many memories from when I was a kid at all, but I remember the Lord being with me in that room. And that presence of God's Holy Spirit, I've never felt that leave me in my whole life. No matter like where I am or what I'm doing, I feel the Lord with me. And that started when I was 4. And so I've always had this interest in the Lord, but I was like kind of the only one. Like there was nobody else in my family that was very interested.
Right.
And so that kind of grew. And then it really took off even more so, I think, where like the obedience piece came in to like radically follow Jesus, not just like be a good person and be a Christian and go to Bible studies, but like seriously read the word and do what it says in college. And that's when I met my husband, Matthew. We were both in Navigators, which is a campus ministry like Campus Crusade or InterVarsity or any of those sorts of things. So my husband and I, before knowing each other, decided to be on the leadership team for navigators. And that's how we met because there were only, like 7 or 8 of us on that leadership team. His dad's a pastor, his grandpa's a pastor. He grew up in a solid Bible believing, Bible reading home.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met. It was the very end of August. I mean, I had barely really dated guys. I just wasn't interested in that. I like cared about school, cared about sports, cared about extracurriculars. Like wasn't really interested in boyfriends. But then Matthew changed that, and it only took 1 to 2 months, and we both like we knew you're the one, and we dated for 6 months and got engaged, and then got married 9 months after that. So then we had no plans at all in terms of like kids.
Mhm.
Very much like whatever happens, happens. Like if I don't know, we were just like, we just felt this sense of peace and easygoing. Like, whatever ends up happening, like we love each other and like we'll be good.
So, like, you weren't trying to prevent pregnancy, you were just like, "We'll just see what happens."
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so we got married in December and then found out that we were pregnant in May, that following May. Super excited, but had no idea like what do you do next. I had not been around babies or like pregnant women. I didn't have that. Was the oldest of my cousins. I also didn't have that many cousins. And I mean, I nannied all growing up, babysat, nannied. I was with kids always, but not babies. Like babies
Yeah.
whole new I don't even know I babysat a baby one time, and other than that, I don't know if I even held a baby. They just, like, weren't around, I don't know. Lots of kids, but no babies, and so I didn't even know where to go or, like, what do you do? When do you go in? What I'm like, I had no idea. So, we were up in the Twin Cities because neither of us had ever lived in the metropolitan area, in, like, the big city. So, we're like, "Well, we just got married. We didn't have jobs, we didn't have kids, we didn't have anything. Let's just go up there and see what it's about. We're, 22 years old." So I asked my mom, whose sister lived up here, like where to go and what to do. So I made an appointment at this place that my aunt, I don't know if she went there or she just Googled it. I don't know, but it was what she had recommended. And I remember sitting in the waiting room, and obviously you're excited. And coming from my background, that I just said, like, I don't know anything that's going on. I know there's a baby in my belly, and that is it. I don't know anything else. I don't know the process. I don't know anything. And they brought me back, and I remember the whole process felt extremely impersonal and cold. There wasn't like a congratulations and like excitement and warmth. It was like everything was cold, and they did a couple of tests and things, and then they wanted me to come back in a week and do another test. And back then I didn't know I didn't even know what the test was for. Like it just everything's over my head. I have no idea what's going on. But like you're just like, okay, like sounds good, whatever you gotta do. And went back a week later, and they took a test. And what I know now is that it was a test of the HCG levels,
Mhm.
and they had gone down or stayed the same. They hadn't risen like they should have. And again, at that time, nothing was explained to me. Like I'm only putting the pieces together now that I've learned. Like I remember basically, the doctor's in there for 2 or 3 minutes total and told me, I don't even know the words they used. Like that's how short they were with me. But basically, like, there's no baby there, or like your pregnancy is ending, something that's just vague and confusing. And they told me to, just pay attention. At some point I might have some pain, some cramping, and we'll need to go to the bathroom and have some blood and things like that. And that was basically all they told me. And then I was like, see you later. And because I didn't know much at all at that time, I don't think I really grieved. Like I don't remember crying. Maybe I did, but I don't remember crying. I don't remember grieving. I remember, like, obviously, if you're excited for a child and then you find out actually you're not pregnant, that's a bummer and you're sad. I don't know. We had told both of our parents, but we hadn't told anybody else yet since it was only 7 or 8 weeks gestation. And I think they probably didn't know what to say. And basically, they just said, like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it was ended there, and I don't think Matthew, my husband, like, knew really what was going on either. It was almost like you found out that your pregnancy test was wrong. That's kind of like the amount of information I knew, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You took the test, you found out you're pregnant, and now actually you're not. Like, the test was wrong, was kind of like the amount that I understood. And because the place I had gone was just so cold, so impersonal, didn't explain anything to me, didn't use
Did they use the term miscarriage?
I don't remember them using that term. It's possible that they did, but I don't remember them using that term.
Okay.
And it makes sense now that I've learned so much more about the industry and how the same people who are delivering babies are also killing them,
Mhm.
and I'm now a certified pro-life speaker and I know a lot more. But back then, as a 23-year-old, I didn't know anything. So I grieved many years later once I really understood, like, what had happened. And you read these stories of women who, you're told it's not a baby, it's just tissue. And um, women who later on learn, after going through with an abortion, learning that that was really their child and that they were lied to. And just the grief and the anger that those women have. Like, even though I didn't get an abortion, I had a miscarriage, I lost a child, but a lot of the same structures within the OBGYN world were there. And I can absolutely see, as somebody who was very naive and didn't understand what was going on, you just believe that the doctors know everything. You believe that the doctors have your best interests in mind, and you just kind of do whatever they say.
Yeah.
So that was the first. And what they did say is you shouldn't try to have another child for at least 3 to 6 months. And so I started looking things up, and this was the first time in my life where I was really, like, researching things on my own. And I found, like, a lot of conflicting data on that there was no clear reasoning to say that it's actually more dangerous to conceive right away after a miscarriage. And there's
Mhm.
actually a fair amount of data out there that shows that you
The
can
opposite.
conceive. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that's what happened for us. We conceived just 2 months later. So that miscarriage happened sometime in, like, July-ish. Then just a couple months later, we conceived again, and we were really excited again. And we told our families. And after you have a miscarriage, you definitely are always wondering, like, will it happen again?
Right.
Even more than like, you can know of miscarriages and always wonder, but, like, if you've had one, it's like every time you go to the bathroom, you wonder if, oh, when you wipe, there's going to be blood on the
Right.
toilet.
Right.
And if you know the miscarriage stats, once you make it to the second trimester, the chances of miscarriage are very low. And so there was this anxiety that I tried to give to the Lord in that first trimester of that pregnancy. And that was good to be able to surrender that and understand, like, we are not in control. And that's not just of our bodies in pregnancy sometimes, but it's also in life. Like, we're not in control. Like, yes, we can eat well, yes, we can exercise and get enough sleep and do all those sorts of things. But I've known enough people that now, and experienced myself, even if you've done all those things, it doesn't guarantee that everything's going to go the way that you hope.
Right.
And so surrendering that to the Lord is was a maturing piece for me as a 23 turning 24-year-old. And I think that was crucial in shaping me, because growing up, I was very achievement driven. I was, naturally good at things, the leader of everything I was in, just like I was the one in control, right? In a human sense. And so being able to take that devastating miscarriage, especially with like not understanding what was going on, to know like how finite I am, to know how little I know. But then you have this creator of the universe who knows all things, who knows every hair on my head, as well as all the hairs on the head of my baby in utero. Like he is in control. He is sovereign, and no matter what happens, whether the baby is saved, whether the baby is lost, whether the baby grows big and healthy, whether the baby is born with any complications or struggles, the Lord is still good, and
Yeah.
his plans are good. And this is not our home, right? So that was huge when we got to the day before being 40 weeks with Teddy. He's our firstborn. I was working at a school. I was a paraprofessional. I worked one-on-one with a kid and really loved that job. And I went to the bathroom and there's a little bit of fluid in my underwear, but I didn't really think much of it. It was just like, it was clear. It didn't smell or anything at least that's what I thought. And so I didn't really think a whole lot of it. And then the next day was 40 weeks exactly. And I had my appointment. I went through a birth center because after doing that research after the miscarriage, like you start going down not bad rabbit holes, like some rabbit holes are good rabbit holes.
Good,
And you
very
just
informative rabbit holes.
yes, and you start learning that there are other ways to do things, like and as I told you, like, I was never around babies, I was never around, breastfeeding mothers, like, I didn't this is all new to me,
Yeah.
so I don't think I knew that people gave birth outside of hospitals. I just didn't know that was a thing. And so, yes, very informative, good rabbit holes that led me to a birth center and totally loved that. Like going from that cold, impersonal, like we don't care if your baby lives or dies, basically mentality of the first place I went to this birth center. It was just a complete 180. It was a very different experience and loved the birth center experience. So I was there for the 40-week appointment, and I almost didn't say anything about the fluid in my underwear because it was like hardly any. It was like a few drops. Like I thought it was just, cervical mucus or whatever. I don't know. And so I did mention it, and the midwife was like, I don't think it's anything. Like I looked, everything looks good up there, intact, all that. Like I really don't think it's your fluid, amniotic fluid or anything. But she checked just in case. And it was. It was amniotic fluid. And so it had been 24 hours at that point already.
But you had only had like that one little drop?
What they think is that instead of the water breaking, it was leaking because there was some sort of hole on the top.
Yeah,
So it
like a
was like
high
still
leak.
intact, but it was open on the top.
Yeah.
And that's why there was so little. But yet when she looked herself, she's like, "No, everything's like how it should be."
Fine. Yeah.
And I was not dilated at all. I was at like a 2 or something.
Well,
So
that's dilated a little.
a little,
Too.
a little. So because it had been 24 hours, I
Ugh.
had to go across the street. And this birth center was kind of cool. So it's downtown Minneapolis, and there are all these very old mansion or like almost mansion houses.
Mhm.
And that's what this birth center was, is it took like this old mansion and turned it into a birth center.
That's cool.
Yes, and I was all excited, like I was gonna do a tub birth because I just thought I would love that, and I was a catcher, so I was like, I'm good at squatting, like I was
Yeah.
like prepared. And so to find out I had to go across the street because it had been 24 hours and the risk of infection goes up at that point. The midwives come with, but you deliver at the hospital.
So they transferred you because simply because your water had been broken for 24 hours?
Yes.
Oh man, different laws in different states. That's
Oh,
crazy.
well, and the thing was, so I'd be curious as to like you as a doula, right? What like you would think about this. because my body was clearly not showing signs of labor other than that.
Yeah.
Like, was not ready.
Right.
And so once we went kitty corner, like literally walked across the street to the hospital, a birth center in a hospital. And the midwives were still there. We started with the most natural ways of inducing labor.
So they just wanted to go ahead and say, like, let's get this show on the road,
They said
basically.
they told me that we would have to because of the water leaking and
Mm.
because you're risking infection the longer you wait. So again, another like I'm naive. I did a lot of research, but I didn't research that. Like what other people do. Is there actually a serious risk for infection? And certainly if I didn't even like it's your first birth, like you're not thinking, you've seen the movies like, oh boom, the water breaks and then you go into labor and you
Right.
have a baby. So I didn't think to even do that, but certainly even if you thought to like look into more of the ins and outs of, water breaking, you don't look up water leaking. I had never even heard of that.
Hmm.
Where everything's still intact, but some yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, the risk of infection is increased because of people sticking their hands up there and doing
hmm,
cervical checks.
okay.
So really it's less that your water's been broken and more that people are doing cervical exams with your water being broken. And so now there's no barrier between like them and the baby.
Okay.
That's like what the true risk is from. If your water breaks and no one sticks anything up there and you just leave it alone, then the risk of infection really isn't that increased at all.
Hmm.
It's all of those cervical exams that introduce new bacteria into the birth canal. That is what is increasing the risk of infection.
So what would you have suggested? Just go home and wait for more signs of
Yes, go
oh,
home. Wait.
nobody brought that up at all.
Because it can be, first of all, if you're just having a high leak, that can reseal itself and
Had no
can
idea.
like reseal, especially if you only had that one little trickle that one time and then never
Yes.
had
Yes.
anything else.
That is what happened.
Like, then
Yes.
it can totally reseal itself. If it continuously leaked, like and every time you moved or every time the baby moved or every time you had a contraction, that would be like a truly broken water. But if it only happened that one time, that would be like a tiny high leak that could easily reseal itself. So you may have not gone in labor for another week or two.
Oh yeah.
But even if it had been broken, it can take 24, 48 plus hours for contractions to actually begin. At the birth center I was at for a couple of mine, their policies changed a little bit now, but back then they didn't intervene until you hit 72 hours
Hmm.
post water breaking. There was no intervention until that point.
I wonder if it's like you said, I wonder if there are different laws in the states that you're in versus me, or is it just like how those midwives there were taught?
It could be a combination because different states have different certification requirements for a birth center to be accredited.
Mm,
But it looks like they had access and privileges at whatever hospital you were going to. And usually, if that's the case, then most midwives are comfortable waiting longer after a water breaks because 24 hours, that is such an arbitrary number. It like does
okay.
not mean anything.
Mm,
Um, it's purely statistical for infection rates to go up at 24 hours, but that's because of all the cervical
yeah.
exams, not because that your water's been broken. I could talk about this for like 45 more minutes, so I'm going to cut myself off there.
One more
And
question with that though is like if you do get an infection, is it always the end of the world?
no.
That's the
Mm-mm.
other piece. Like, is it even
Because they worry about like if you get a really high fever, it means baby could be overheated and lead to seizures and blah blah blah. But that's so incredibly rare. And what they would do, especially at a hospital, anyways, is if you did spike a fever and it was like consistent, like they usually take your temperature more than once and give some time between, then they would suggest they would really push and maybe just administer without even your consent. Just IV antibiotics to
yeah.
like get rid of the infection. But people don't know you can also decline that. But yeah, that's what they would do. It wouldn't change the course of your birth.
Okay.
They would just give you antibiotics.
Should have known you back then. I could have come to North Carolina, give
How
birth.
old is your oldest?
He just turned 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was dueling. Uh,
Okay.
but
So now we're across the street. We're at the hospital. It's called the Mother Baby Center, and the midwives are still there, as well as some, nurse and hospital staff. And they start with the least invasive or, most natural ways of inducing birth, starting birth, getting it going. I had not had any contractions yet at all. And basically, they try different things for the next little bit over 2 days. I'm just in the hospital and they're trying different things and nothing is working for 2 full days, a little over 2 full days.
do they do Cytotec, Foley balloon, Pitocin?
The last thing they did was Pitocin, and they had told me from the beginning that Pitocin is intense.
Yeah.
And so I think there were like 6 different things that we had tried. And I also had an IV because of the strep B.
You were positive. You were GBS
Correct.
positive? Okay.
Yes.
And that might be why they transferred you, um, because of being GBS positive, because then that statistically, again, increases your chance of an infection with a broken water.
Okay.
And they want to give you antibiotics.
Yes.
Anyways, they would have given you antibiotics had your water never broken, unless you decline them. But they would have highly pushed antibiotics simply because you were GBS positive, which is a whole nother episode we could talk about too. Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to, and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God. And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
So yeah, that appointment was Friday morning, transferred over there, started trying to get labor going all Friday. Doesn't, like, nothing is happening, just trying lots of stuff, plus getting pumped full of fluids and antibiotics this whole time.
Right.
And then Saturday, the same thing, trying more and more and more and more stuff all day long. Doesn't work at all. Now it's Sunday, right? We're over the 48-hour mark of trying to get labor going in the hospital, having an IV of antibiotics and other fluids. And then finally, Sunday afternoon, they decided to do the Pitocin. And I don't know if this was because they were like, I don't, they're
They were like,
impatient.
I don't know what else to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I don't know a whole lot. So you're just like, okay, like whatever you got to do, I trust you. That's really what I was saying. And I think most people are just like, I trust you, do what you think. And then it went from 0 to 60 really fast.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have a natural birth. I wanted to do all the different positions and use the balls and do the squatting and use the sheets in different positions and things like that, and pushed for hours. And they even had to rotate midwives in the middle of my pushing because I had been pushing for so long. And they basically told me like that I was doing it how I was supposed to be doing it, that they could see baby's head, and baby's head was just not coming, not descending. And I'm not exactly sure, but it was what felt like many hours of pushing. And this again was after 2.5 days of trying all these different things, putting all these different things in my body. Something happened, but I don't know exactly what it was. And it changed to an emergency C-section.
You don't remember what happened?
No, I don't. I
But
don't
it
remember.
went from you're pushing, and suddenly now we have an emergency C-section.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that means his heart rate dropped really low. That's
Okay.
like, there would hardly be another explanation unless you just started like bleeding out at that point.
No, no, I
Okay.
think I would have remembered that. It must
Yeah.
have been the heart rate.
Yeah. It would have been his heart rate dropping and not coming back up.
And I wonder why that happens, just because of pushing for so many hours that
It
is
could be
stressful.
the cord got compressed, or it could be that sometimes Pitocin causes fetal distress like that. It could have been he was deep in the birth canal and wasn't moving in either direction, like backward or forward. It could have been any of those. But they also usually at the hospital don't have a very, I don't want to say high tolerance, but they don't wait
Yeah,
very
yeah,
long to see if the heart rate's going to recover. They'll just
right.
call it
And
and
I do
go.
know that taking Pitocin, if you take Pitocin, the chances of then having a C-section are much higher.
Yeah, with an induction for sure, which is definitely what you had. You had an induction.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So then they had to put me under. So because
Completely.
they tried to do the normal local anesthesia, and it did not work. And they think it's probably because I had all of the other stuff in my body from the past
Couple of
3 days.
days. Yeah.
But I could feel everything when they were testing. So then they had to put me fully under, so I was not awake
Mm.
during that first birth,
So then your
and
husband probably wasn't in the room either.
not until he was delivered, and then they let him come in. So yeah, this is all crazy and new, and I don't really have an opinion on anything because I just have no experience in this.
Right.
But baby boy was healthy, 8 pounds 3 ounces, 22 inches long, blue eyes, deep blue eyes, beautiful baby. Absolutely loved every single moment, the touch of the softest skin you've ever felt, and just wanted him on me at all times, like totally. And breastfeeding went well. We were blessed with that. Like breastfeeding's always gone really well. And I even remember we still have a video. He was only a few hours old and he was on my chest and he lifted his head off my chest and we had it on video and we're like, whoa, what is he? He's so strong. It's crazy. And my husband was totally the same way. We were just like so in love with our child and so grateful to the Lord and just it was amazing. And the surgeon came and talked to me the next day, the one who performed the C-section, and they said to me that C-sections haven't always been a thing. And if this had happened, whenever, I don't know how long C-sections have been around,
A little less than 100 years.
less than 100.
Mhm.
So if I had given birth 100 years ago, that both baby and I would have died. That's what the surgeon said.
Did they say, like, why they think he wasn't descending?
They said because of the shape of my pelvis. Because he was 8 pounds, 3 ounces. They said even if it was a 6 pound baby, that baby's never going to come out vaginally. That's what the surgeon said. So, again, with the research after this birth, I did a lot of research and I found all these other women who were told similar things that went on to successfully deliver vaginally after a C-section. So, and the birth center was great about that, like wanting to do a VBAC. And
See, that's another difference. They won't do VBACs at birth centers in North Carolina,
okay,
but they do it in other states. So North Carolina is really wonky when it comes to birth laws. I wouldn't,
really? Huh.
I wouldn't move
Wonder
here
why.
for that.
Wonder why.
Oh, politics, money, red tape, ushering money to the
Yes.
hospitals. We won't get started on that train. But okay, so you researched and wanted to do a VBAC for your second.
Yes. Yes. And this time I did even more than the previous time. Like I did all the stretching and tried to do the different spinning babies things that I had learned. I did chiropractor and acupuncture. Like I learned as much as I possibly could about being able to do this. Like, let's do this. And thankfully, this time there was no leaking water, there was no high leak. And I went into labor naturally. So I got to feel what that was like because I didn't get to do that last time. And it started at like 11 p.m. And I remember like it's so much lower than I thought it would be. And maybe it's different for different people, but it was just pelvic pressure is like what it felt like for me. And it was super intense. And we stayed at home until the certain time in between. The birth center had two locations and they would only do a VBAC at the other location. So we had to drive like 25, 30 minutes to the other location. And that doesn't seem that bad. But when you're having super intense contractions. Like it was so uncomfortable to be in the car driving.
Oh
And
yes.
we got there and I was at a 6, I think, when we got there.
Decent.
I know it wasn't less than a 6. I'm pretty positive it was a 6. And I tried the tub, and the tub at the hospital is not very big. At least the where we were, and it was not comfortable. I got out right away. Like, and that kind of stunk because that's what I had wanted to do the first time. And then I just thought I would really like that. I love water, I love swimming, I love, baths and hot tubs. But I got in, I got right out. It was not comfortable. We also, since it was 11 o'clock at night, we had to call my parents because we had our 1 year old. Somebody needed to take our 1 year old. And so we called my parents, and my parents had not been to this hospital because it was at a different place. And my dad was talking to my husband and he's like, I'm here. Where are you? And it's 2 in the morning. And Matthew's like, I'm right in the front. I don't see you. And he was at the wrong hospital in downtown St. Paul. There are like 3 or 4 major hospitals. It's very confusing. It's hard. There's just so many hospitals. And Then he went to another one, and it was the wrong one again, and Matthew's out there with our one-year-old at 2 in the morning just
Oh
waiting.
my
And
gosh.
then finally my dad got there and Matthew said he could smell the burnt rubber. Like my dad must have been driving so fast. He's trying to be so helpful and he he's going to the wrong hospital. Finally, he got to the right one and they took Teddy home and Matthew came back up to be with me and I'm doing, all the different things again, all the different positions and the squatting and those sorts of things and basically this time we didn't do anything to induce labor. It went into labor naturally, but the different positions and the pushing and all that was similar. And eventually, this one I remember for sure, so it makes sense what you said with our first. His heart rate started to drop. And because of what I had experienced the first time, that time I was like, like
While you were pushing, you mean?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Heart rate dropped for him, our second born and different midwives, they were saying the same thing as the midwives the previous time. Basically, you're doing it like you're doing everything right, you're pushing really good, and he's just not descending. Like I can see his head, I can see you're pushing, like you're doing everything, and he's just not coming. So then when his heart rate dropped, this is the first time in my life I had ever like cried out to the Lord audibly, like out loud with my with my audible words and just prayed out loud like and cried out to the Lord to save my baby. And we did do another emergency C-section and we had a different surgeon this time. I was able to stay awake. The local anesthesia did work that time, maybe because I didn't have anything extra in my system.
Right.
So I got to be awake and Matthew got to be in there. And this other surgeon, without my telling him what I mean, I don't know if maybe there were notes that he read or something, but this surgeon said the same thing the other surgeon said, that no baby was ever going to come out vaginally. So, two different places, two different people, a year and a half apart, said the same thing. And so then, we had another beautiful, healthy baby boy with deep blue eyes, and they have had no issues at all, very healthy, still are. But now there's me who's had 2 C-sections. Now the birth center won't. And actually, they had just changed their policy during that postpartum period for me. So they used to have a policy where they would do it after 2, but no more than 2 C-sections.
Mm-hmm.
And they emailed everybody in their system saying that they had changed their policy right after my second, that they'd only do it after
After
1.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was bummed about that because I still really enjoyed and they wouldn't do anything. Like it's not you couldn't do your
Laboring
prenatal
there.
stuff and
Oh,
then
yeah.
move. They wouldn't do anything. You have to go find somewhere else. So then with our third, we just went through a hospital. I didn't really I guess maybe there was somebody out there if I researched really hard who would be willing to like keep trying with me and do it again. But I didn't know anybody. And so we just went to like the hospital nearby. And the hospital is really it's a nice hospital. Every single nurse that we've had there, because we've now had 3 there at the hospital, 3 babies there. Every single nurse that we've had has been wonderful, and almost all of them have been Christians, even though it's just a normal hospital. It's because, like, I think they said 60% of the nurses who work there are from Bethel, which is a Christian college in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that has been a blessing, and we've really enjoyed that. They have been planned C-sections since then. So the third, fourth, and fifth born were planned C-sections. Again, no complications with pregnancy at all other than that, other than having C-sections. Healthy, good, like, I feel good all the way through. But this third one, I was 7.5, maybe almost 8 months along with our third born, and I woke up and I had this terrible pain on the right side of my abdomen, kinda like the bottom of my rib cage or so, just,
Mhm.
like, terrible pain, and it didn't go away. It had been several hours, didn't ebb and flow, it was constant, It didn't matter if I was sitting, walking, standing, laying down, just felt the same. And so I finally called the nurse on call. They're always asking you, "Is it Braxton Hicks? Like, do you think it's Braxton Hicks?" And I even tried to preemptively tell her all these different things that would like explain how it's not Braxton Hicks, but they still ask you, "Is it Braxton Hicks?" No, no, I know it's not. Um, then also, I can't remember if I told the nurse on call, but I also couldn't go pee. Like I felt like I had to go pee, but I nothing came out. And so I had R2, who were a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and then also nanny kids, 3 nanny kids. So I had 5 kids I was watching over while this happened. Thankfully, it was in August, so my mom, who's a teacher, was off of work. She wasn't back to school yet. And the nanny family has grandparents nearby. So I let the nanny family know, like, they told me to come in to the emergency room, and grandma and grandpa came over to watch the nanny kids. My mom came over and had to drive me because it was such severe pain. I couldn't drive. And so we all got in the car, and my mom dropped me off at the emergency room, and then she had our 2 boys, and I got in there, and I'm sitting in this super small room, and again everybody's asking me, could it be Braxton Hicks? And I'm trying to explain to them, like, this is like 10 out of 10 pain. It hasn't gone away at all. Like, I know what contractions feel like. This is completely different in a different spot. It doesn't come and go. It's like it's something different. And so they go and wheel me in to get an ultrasound. And they look at the right side, and the ultrasound tech doesn't take super long, like just like a normal amount of time over on the right side, and then goes over to the left side and spends a lot of time on the left side. Like, why
The
are you just
side that's not
looking on the
hurting.
left? It doesn't hurt. Yes, exactly. And then she sets her instrument down and she said, "I will be right back." Like, what is happening? Like, why? Like, I'm so confused. I have no idea what's going on. And then she comes back and she's the tech, so she can't tell me anything anyway. And remember, this started when I woke up this morning. Now it's like mid afternoon. And then I get wheeled back to my room, and I'm sitting in there for another couple of hours before the doctor comes to tell me anything. And what I found out finally is that I had kidney stones in my right kidney, and I do not have a left kidney,
Wow.
which I did not know. This is
Wow.
like 6 p.m. at night that I finally find out, like, and it's still in terrible pain because nothing has been done. And the reason I couldn't go pee was because I only have 1 kidney.
And they were all the stones were blocking all the
Yes,
yeah.
a
Wow.
complete blockage. No, yeah, had not peed since the night before or something. I don't even like, where's all the pee? I don't even know. I don't
When
know.
you're
Yeah,
pregnant, you pee all the time.
right, right, exactly. And I feel like I do anyways. And now I kind of know because even as a kid, I had to pee a lot. Well, I only have 1 kidney, so that makes sense why I have to pee more often.
So did you have to have surgery right then and there?
Yes, I did. And it was called blasting. They use lasers to blast the kidney stones to break them up, and then you pass them. So they put me completely under. I didn't feel anything, and I didn't feel anything after.
Did they, like, give you a catheter and then, like, they came out and you just slept through the whole thing?
I guess so. And I didn't even have any bruising. It wasn't
It sounds
sore.
like the way to go.
It does. It was, like, totally easy once they did it. I was like, "Is this what you normally do?" But they have multiple ways they do it. The reason why they blasted them was because the normal way of whatever they do, they, like, have to use an X-ray, or there was something they couldn't do
Because you were
because I was
pregnant.
pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the blasting seemed really slick to me. And then I found out that I only had 1 kidney, which, everybody's first question is like, "Didn't they see that on your mom's ultrasound?" Like, when
No.
she was pregnant with me, but no, and there is some cystic tissue over there where it's, like, tissue that does nothing. It's just like a
Yeah.
placeholder. So maybe they saw that, I don't know, or I mean, that was 1992,
Ultrasounds back then weren't that great.
so so that's part of it too. I mean, I don't think that they would have let me be a softball catcher if we had known that I only had 1 kidney, because they usually don't want you to play contact sports, you
Right.
know? And as a catcher, like, it's very much contact. I got ran into all the time. But, yeah, I only have 1 kidney, and that's like, what a
Well, good to
crazy.
find out.
I will not be able to donate a kidney
Now
because I
you
only
know.
have 1. But, yeah, then had baby number well, birth number 4, birth number 5, and then earlier this year, we found out we were pregnant in April. Found out very early, like, when I was 4 weeks along, and I feel like we should maybe count birthdays from gestation anyway, because, like, I've heard that some other countries do that, and it does make sense because, that's how long your baby has been alive, even
Right.
if you couldn't see baby. And we had just had 5 successful, no complications other than the kidney stones and finding out I had 1 kidney, pregnancies. And of course, it's still in the back of your mind when you've had a miscarriage, but like not really a whole lot when you've had,
Like
5
4
babies
more
in the
kids.
last
Yeah.
6 years. And yeah, so it was a huge shock when around 10 weeks I had some blood when I wiped. And I was like, "Okay, well, I know, like, this can happen and it's not necessarily a terrible thing." And I had no other symptoms at all. Like, felt good, felt normal. But then there was this intuition where I was like, "I just feel like this is weird. Like, this is not, like, something's wrong." It wasn't a ton. It was not feeling a pad or anything, but it just was like, "This is just, I don't know. I don't feel good about this," even though I felt physically fine. And so I called the nurse line, and it was a Sunday. And I talked with them, and she even said how they had just had a special in-service day, like training day, where they were specifically talking about this and how the majority of times, if you have no other symptoms and you have some bleeding in the first trimester, you are totally fine and baby goes on to be fine. But, let's just have you could either just wait till your next appointment, which I hadn't had an appointment yet, also because, like, there's so many appointments when you go through the hospital.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start having appointments, there's so many appointments, and I had just had 5 easy pregnancies in a row. So, like, I'm gonna push this off. Like, I don't really wanna go in yet. And
Yeah.
so my first appointment wasn't scheduled until the following week, when I would have been, like, 11 and a half weeks along. And I also charted my cycle, so I also felt very positive, very sure about
Your
the
dates.
conception date. Then there was a little bit more blood, so it's like, okay, I'm just like gonna go in because I don't want to worry about this for the next like 5 days before my appointment. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go in, we'll get an ultrasound since I haven't had one yet. Make sure baby has a heartbeat, baby's moving, like baby is the size that baby should be, all those sorts of things. And went in, and again, this is the emergency center, or emergency room, I should say. So it's slightly different than the place that I delivered, although it's in the same block. It's like connected to where I delivered the previous 3, and had great they had the same OBGYN who did the C-sections for the last 3 boys, and she and I were on the same page. I don't think she's a Christian, but we understood each other. Really liked her. She was very supportive of my wanting to have a lot of kids, even though I was having C sections, and just like I really like her. And again, all of our nurses, basically every single one, was a Christian who went to Bethel Bethel University, which is a Christian university in the cities here in Minnesota. But this emergency room was not the same. It's just next to it. And they had me pee in a cup to make sure that I was pregnant, since I hadn't actually had an appointment yet. Yes, I was pregnant. And then was sitting there waiting. And again, I feel completely normal. I have no symptoms, and it's a little blood. It's not a lot. No cramping, no fever, no headache, nothing. And, part of me is like, I left 5 boys with my husband. Like, maybe I should have just waited till my appointment. It's Sunday. Like, how much is this gonna cost to be in the emergency room, all those sorts of things going through my head as I'm sitting there, like, do I really need to be here? Should I be here? And then I go back and I'm in a room for a little bit, and then they take me to do an ultrasound. And I remember this ultrasound tech was similar to my very first experience where I said it was cold and impersonal.
Yeah.
She was like so short and almost like rude to me, this ultrasound tech lady. And she even told me, she's like, and didn't say it in like a kind way or a sensitive way. It was like, you cannot look at the screen. I'm not allowed to tell you anything. You can't see anything. I don't know. She was just like harsh and cold and rude. And it would not surprise me if she also does, you know, ultrasound guided abortions or something. It's just like there was no humanity there. And so she did the ultrasound. She did both kinds, just, on the belly and as well as a vaginally inserted ultrasound. And then I went back to the room. And now I don't know if this is a federal law or a Minnesota law, but I feel like it's a federal one where as soon as your test results are in, they get uploaded to your online chart before the doctor even has a chance to talk to you. Do you know
Hmm.
if that's a law where you are?
I don't know if that is or not.
After a few years, I think it was a few years ago, that's the law now. And it's complicated because if you go in for like cancer or you go in for whatever it is, you will see the results
Before
online
your doctor
before
tells
the
you.
doctor gets to explain to you what they mean. And depending on what it is, you might not really know what it means, you
Yeah.
know. But for this one, I knew what it meant. I knew that the HCG levels were only um, what they should have been at about 7 weeks when I was supposed to be 10 and a half. And I knew that the size of baby was only measuring 7 days or 7 weeks, 1 day, when it should have been 10 weeks and 2 days. So I knew that it wasn't good. And again, I had charted my cycle. So I was very confident on the conception date. It wasn't like, we were just off by 3 weeks. The doctor came in and asked me, you know, they probably know this now. Have you seen your results? Which is a completely different nature as to what it was before the last few years, where the doctor would come in and give you the news. Now it's like, okay, you've already seen the news. Now, like, how are you doing?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, I mean, and it's like it is my body's results, so like I have the right to know what the results are as fast as they're available, but also I don't know what I think about it. it's
Yeah,
it's
me neither.
a hard call. And I mean, I was devastated, absolutely devastated, way more than the first time when I didn't really know what was going on. I felt so confused and just sad and hurt, and I was just praying and praying, and I was praying on the way to the hospital. Like, I was just constantly praying ever since like there was any blood at all a couple days before that. And the doctor was trying to console me, and it was almost maddening. It was frustrating because the doctor was trying to console me at the same time that she would not recognize the baby as a baby. Like,
Oh.
she wouldn't say the word baby. She said that you no longer have the pregnancy, that the tissue, like referring to the tissue and things like that.
Mm.
So that it was more like, I just want you to leave. I'd rather continue talking to God than hearing you dehumanize my precious child. So that was again weird, and it's just like, come on, like it is a baby. You are a doctor. You see them. You see that they are moving. They have hands and feet. They're human from the point of conception. We know this by science and philosophy. You don't even have to be a Christian. And thankfully, the nurse that came in after that, she has 4 kids, and she was more compassionate. The doctor was trying to be compassionate, but it was very hard to receive it because it was like, "Oh, you're not pregnant. Sorry, you're not pregnant." It wasn't, "Oh, your child is dying or has died." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, "I'm sorry you're not pregnant." That does, but the nurse came in after the doctor had left, and she gave me a hug, and she was much more caring and said, "Baby," right? Like, I'm so sorry about your baby. And, she did a better job at consoling. Not that I could be consoled, but I still appreciated the nurse. And then I had to somehow figure out how to drive home. I thought about, calling my mom who only lives 5 minutes away. But then, the other part of me that's, very driven and stubborn and tough is like, I'm going to drive home. I'm not going to call anyone, you know, and I don't really want to talk to anybody but God at this point. I don't want to talk to another person, maybe Matthew, but I just cried and prayed the whole way home. It was like 20, 25 minutes home. It was really hard, absolutely devastatingly hard. And the miscarriage itself, the physical part, happened a couple of days later. And it was some of the most painful moments that I've ever had physically because I was now like 11 weeks, I think, when it actually happened. So being further along, it's a lot more painful physically. And it happened in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning. And, part of me wanted to, yell out to my husband for help because I was in such terrible pain. But then it was like, what could he even do? I guess he could have been in the bathroom with me, but he couldn't do anything. This all had to happen. My body had to do this, and I would have risked waking all the boys, other boys up too. So I was there. It was God and me, and we lost our second baby. And then I shared that story on Facebook, and I did it in a long form way that explained like what happened. It explained what I believe about God in it and through it, where baby is, all those sorts of things. It talked about the different experiences with like the doctor who wouldn't refer to my baby as a baby and how destructive that is and how women who don't understand, like when I had my first miscarriage, how evil that is, that like we're not telling people the truth, like we're hiding the truth that your baby is a baby, you know? But then I also talked about like the hope that we have in Christ and like how when King David was crying out to the Lord about his son that he lost, and he said that, he can't come to me, but I can go to him. And what he was saying there is, he knew that his child was with the Lord and that they would be reunited one day. And that is absolutely what I believe, that we will have an amazing, glorious reunion when Jesus brings us home. And the most amazing thing is that we will be face to face with God, but we will also be reunited with our lost loved ones, including the children that we've lost. And they're in a much better place than we are. They're not hurt. We're hurt, but we're excited to see them and meet them. And we don't know if they were boys or girls. We have 5 boys. Maybe they were girls. I don't know. Maybe we've had 7 boys. I don't know. And we found out about a month ago that we were pregnant again. So right now I am 8 weeks along. And even more than before, there is this tension, this anxiety that I have to constantly give over to the Lord. And I even pray, your will be done, Lord, no matter what that is. And I trust you. And I really, really want you to bless this baby and grow this baby all the way to not only a healthy baby, but for many years so that we can raise this child up and teach them your ways and grow them so that they can know you and make you known and be a part of our family team as we help bring the kingdom of God here on earth. But even if you take this baby too, I know that you are good and I trust you and I love you. So even though these miscarriages have been extremely painful, both emotionally and physically, and I wish we had, 6 babies running around and a 7th that would have been born in December around my husband's birthday. There's hope in Christ. And we have another, and Yes, I think about it every time I go to the bathroom. Is there, gonna be blood when I wipe? But whether there is or whether there's not, the Lord is good, and we will follow him. We will be faithful and obedient to him. And we could have never even imagined or planned that we'd have 5 boys. Like, if you had asked me before we had any kids, I would have said we'd probably have 2 kids. That's what I grew up. Everybody had 2, some had 3. Like, nobody had 4, and certainly not 5. Everybody I knew
Mm-hmm.
had 2 or 3. We each grew up with only 1 sister. So this was way different than, anything that I had known. And it's just amazing when you surrender your life to the Lord, the things that he does. And it's also not about us, it's about him, but certainly there are a lot of blessings that come when you give your life over to the King of the universe. So that's where we are now, 8 weeks and a day with, baby number 8, I guess that would be, because we have 5 born and 2 with the Lord.
Wow. Well, congratulations, because I didn't know you were pregnant when we this entire time
Thank
until
you.
you just said that.
There we go.
I'm really happy for you guys that you have conceived again. I mean, we didn't talk about this at all, but you also didn't mention it. So I assume you don't have like super sick, nauseous pregnancies.
No, no, not at all. With the very first pregnancy, I had no symptoms whatsoever prior to the miscarriage, which happened at like 7 or 8 weeks. And then with our firstborn, we were actually in Boston. We had bought Boston Red Sox tickets. I've been a Red Sox fan since I was in like 5th grade, 6th grade, somewhere in there. And the Red Sox were supposed to, all they had to do was win at least one game in their first playoff series. And then they would be playing at Fenway. So we like bought tickets. We were going to do all the historical stuff in Boston. We were going to go to a Red Sox game. The Red Sox were favored to win. They were playing the Indians and they got swept. So they did not play, but we still went
Oh,
to Boston and we just stayed at a house, like an Airbnb, one of those where they just rent out a room. So we were like staying next to this couple who lives in this house. And we found a local coffee shop that we went to every morning, and we got these amazing breakfast sandwiches that had this like special homemade honey mustard on them, and they were so good. But while we were in Boston, I kept having a headache. Every morning I had a headache, and it just was weird. And like, why am I having headaches? So then when we got home from Boston, I took a pregnancy test, and that's when we found out we were pregnant. So all that to say, that's usually like how my body shows that something's wrong. I've not thrown up since I was in kindergarten, which is
whoa.
an interesting fact. I
Huh.
don't throw up. And I was swinging on a chain at a playground. I fell, hit my head. We went to the grocery store after, and I threw up in one of the aisles. Clean up on aisle 5. That was the last time that I had thrown up. I have not thrown up since. I don't know. But for the most part, with the pregnancies, I don't really have any symptoms for the most part, by and large.
Well, that's fantastic.
Births have been really bad, obviously, but pregnancies have been really good.
Did you ever go and get like an x-ray and have somebody like show you your pelvis and like why they assume that no baby will ever fit through there? Like, have you ever like gone and looked into that? And
No, but I would certainly be interested in that.
I feel like
Yeah,
that would
I
have been the
don't
first
know.
thing I did. Be like, show me. I need you to show
Yeah,
show me why this isn't working.
yeah. I mean, there is definitely part of me that's like, should I just try one more time? Like, even though I've had 5, like, should I just try? And my mom is like, no way, you can't. You can't. Because she's nervous. She's
Yeah.
nervous because every subsequent C-section, yes, risks
Increases your
are
risk for
higher, of
things.
course.
Yeah. But still, I'd just be curious. Like, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
want to see it. Like, show me the picture, show me what, a quote unquote regular pelvis looks like, pelvic outlet or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not like you're like this. 4.5 foot person. I mean, I can't tell how tall
I'm
you are.
5'6". I'm
Okay.
very normal, very
Right. I
average.
was like, you're very averagely height, like everything. Like, I don't, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, really, really short women. But then it's
I didn't
like,
know that, but sure, yeah, yeah.
no, I mean, there's really not much to that though. Short women can still have babies. But it's like they're like, oh, you're so petite, so maybe that's why it didn't fit. But it's like that's not a real thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And I would be interested because whenever I do tell my story, I always say, "But I don't really know," because 'cause
yeah,
you're just, like, taking I haven't seen
you're
it with my
taking their
own
word.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the doctor who did C-sections 3, 4, and 5, um, was a different doctor than the first 2 doctors?
Correct.
Has
Yeah,
she
she
said the
concurred.
same
I
thing?
asked her.
She
Yeah.
said, yeah, okay.
She didn't say it on her own, but I asked her after, and she said that she concurred with the first 2.
Mm,
But maybe I could even ask her, like but you know what I've also learned is the more that I've done research and asked questions, not to sound harsh, and some people who are listening are gonna totally understand this, but they don't know a whole lot.
right.
Like, they have lots of guesses, and even when I've asked another possible increased risk subsequent C-section is having a placenta previa, where it's
Mhm,
in the front bottom, because that's near the scar tissue.
mhm.
And apparently, if you have the placenta in the front bottom and it grows into the scar tissue, there is a chance, if it grows into the scar tissue enough, that when you give birth that time, they would have to take the entire uterus out.
Out. Yeah.
But why? Why can't they just cut it out of the scar tissue?
So, that is something called placenta accreta. So,
Okay.
yes, placenta previa is when it's covering the cervix, like, and it's basically it's covering the exit route. And a first time mom could have that. Um,
Yeah.
it's rare. It's rare that it would cover the entire cervix. Usually they move as your uterus grows,
Okay.
like the vast majority of the time. But if you have placenta accreta, which is where your placenta embeds itself very deeply into the scar tissue, um, in on top of placenta previa, then when they go to do the C-section, they're they would just they would have to do it very, very quickly. It would be possible there would be extreme damage, permanent damage to your uterus because the placenta is so adhered to your uterus that it's almost like they can't be separated without ripping
Oh,
your
okay. So
uterus.
it's not necessarily
It's not
about
the
the
previa. It's not about the
yeah,
previa. It's about the accreta. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So what I appreciate about the doctor who's done 3, 4, and 5 is that when I asked her so there's a small increased risk in subsequent C-section where you're more likely to have the placenta previa. And so I had asked her, like, "Do you know that for sure, or do they just, like, say that, or are there actual studies showing that the more C-sections you have, you're more likely to have a placenta previa?" And she admitted that she doesn't really know, and she would have to look into that. But so many of the things are, like that I found when I do research is you're going from, like, a 0.0004 to a 0.006%
Right.
chance,
Right.
you
It's
know, where it's
like right.
incremental to incremental. Yeah, I mean, I obviously would rather I mean, if you had to take the uterus out, like, you'd have that baby, that's wonderful, and you wouldn't be able to have more babies after that if you took the uterus out. But also, I wouldn't be super keen on having a major organ removed from my body in terms of hormones and other things
Right.
that affects. But it sounds like there's a small chance that there's nothing else you can do, you just have to take it out.
Yeah, but again, that's a rarity and it's again not common and also something not really highly researched because there aren't very many women who have had 6 C-sections. It's a
Yeah.
very small population you're working with there.
Right, right.
So
And I've never
there's not
had
very
a
much evidence.
I've never had a placenta previa before. Um,
Yeah, or a
that is
placenta accreta.
correct. There's one lady, oh, what I'm blanking on her name right now. She is a Christian and she has a podcast and she's a homeschool mom. I didn't even like tried to find this out because the highest C-section I've asked several doctors and people I've heard is somebody having 6 was like the most.
Yeah.
She's a Christian mom and grandma now, homeschooler, very solid Bible believing lady, and she's had 8. She had 8 C-sections.
C-sections. Wow.
Yes, and she put frankincense and myrrh on her scar
Uh-huh.
after number 7, because of HIPAA. She overheard her friend overheard a nurse talking and didn't like say her name or anything, but obviously not many people have 8 C-sections. The nurse who was overseeing this 8th C-section saw, how everything looked down there, and she was saying to another nurse, like, you'd think it was her 3rd C-section. Like, it looked good down there. And she thought it was likely because she put the frankincense and myrrh on between number 7 and number 8. So I did do that last time. It's hard to know because you don't know what the inside you don't know what the inside
Yeah.
looks like. But I did do that this time and also put, prebiotic lotion down there. I just found out about dry needling and how you can do dry needling down where you had the C-section by the scar and the tissue around. Because since the first, I have quite a bit down there that's just numb. Like I don't have any sensing down there,
Feeling. Yeah.
feeling down there. So after this one, I would like to pursue some of that because this is interesting. I've had 5 C-sections, and I have not been told a single thing about recovery other than taking ibuprofen and Advil.
Yeah, I bet not. Like,
Nothing. Not a I didn't know there was anything you could do. It was just like, take ibuprofen, which after the last 2 for sure, I haven't taken any pain meds at all, and I've been perfectly fine.
wow.
0. Yeah.
Impressive.
And I have been totally fine, so you can do it. And it wasn't like I was muscling through the pain, like, I
You
was
just weren't
fine.
in that much pain. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got up and was walking, like, pretty much right away after all of the
Wow.
last 3. The recovery after the very first one, after a 3-day labor,
It's probably
that
the
was
hardest.
so awful, that was incredibly hard. The second one was hard, but not nearly as hard as the first, and then 3, 4, 5, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no prior labor, just straight
Those are
to
just
the
planned, yeah.
surgery. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll have to hook you up with my friend Emily, who she actually was on this podcast earlier this year. She's also had 5 C-sections.
Oh, cool.
And
I mean,
she,
not,
well,
you know
yeah, not
you
cool,
know,
but cool.
you know,
Yeah, I get it. I
yeah.
get what you're saying. But it was cool how she went about her 5th one, but she ends up hiring a home birth midwife to do all of her prenatal and postpartum care. And then
Mm.
when she goes into labor, she just goes to the hospital, has a C-section, and then like comes home.
So that's,
So,
like, the only part was
so the only
or
part that's
delivery.
not with like the home birth midwife is the actual surgery, and then
I would like that.
her home birth midwife does all of her care prior to and postpartum.
Yeah, I mean, we've had uncomplicated pregnancies, so I would like that a lot.
Yeah.
'Cause it's certainly a hassle to have to go in once a month and then eventually twice a month and eventually once a week when you have 5 other kids at home.
Right. Yeah.
'Cause it's, like, a
So,
lot to coordinate.
yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, you've had now 8 pregnancies and you have had 5 C-sections. And I know you went into this with, I mean, you planned a birth center for your first, which is awesome. How have you been able to reconcile with the Lord, you not being able to have, these vaginal births or these natural births? Like,
Yeah.
what has that done to your relationship with the Lord?
That is a very good question. And when I talk to people and, like, they find out or they just when we have lots of kids and you're around kind of homeschool moms or more crunchy moms, they kind of assume, like, that you've done
Oh, you're
all
a home birther and blah, blah,
Yes,
blah. Yeah.
yes. And basically what I say is I am pro home birth, pro midwives, pro natural birth, but I can't have them. And or at least, back to your point about like getting an x-ray and actually like can you like show me so I can understand and see with my own eyes like why this isn't working? as far as I know, it's not in the cards for me, not a plan for me. And the Lord, I think, has taken me who has seen a lot of success ever since I was little in pretty much everything I did, had a lot of control and, did well. Um, didn't really struggle with much, right? I wasn't struggling with anxiety or self-esteem much. I was a confident, in control person. And then there's this thing that I thought I was going to plan out, be in complete control of, right? I told you how I was a catcher. Like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to push baby out in 2 pushes in a squat. Like, this is easy. I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to master this. I'm going to accomplish this. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't think that that in and of itself is bad, but I think that the Lord has chosen to use this in particular for me in order to show me a few different things. One, this world is broken and full of sin. This is not our home. We should long to be with him, long for him to come home, right? In Revelation, Lord, come quickly, right? Like that should be on our hearts. And that the Lord is with us, even when, just like he was with me when I was a young child in that room at my biological father's house, where I felt so alone, but he was with me and he's never left me. The Lord is with us. When I cried out to him during that second birth, where baby's heart rate began to drop, and I knew I wasn't in control, but the Lord knew everything. He knew what was going to happen. He knew why baby's heart rate was dropping. He knew me. He knew what I was feeling, everything. Right? The Lord knows us. El Rohi. He sees me. He knows me. And then also to share my story. So when I shared on Facebook about the miscarriage that happened earlier this summer, there was there were so many people who reached out to me and shared their story with me.
Mm.
There were stories of their own miscarriages. There were people who came up to me and said how I come off just very confident naturally, like that nothing, quote unquote, nothing shakes me. Like I don't, those sorts of things. So to hear me share the depths of my heart, that it was very hard and I was very sad and it was very painful. And just to share those things to show like I need the Lord and his strength is through my weakness, right? In my weakness, he is strong and he is my rock and my identity. He is our anchor. He is the strong tower. It's about him. It's not me. So I think all of those things like a humility, a humbling to use me. And I've told him that like if you're using this to work in other people's lives, like, I will surrender that to you. I give that to you. I want to surrender everything to you, even if it's super, super hard and sad and I don't really like it. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it has, to your question, strengthened my faith in a lot of ways. I think the Lord, whether he caused it or he's using it, I think he's done a lot in me and through me because of the miscarriages, as well as, it's when everything goes well for you and you feel like you're in control and you see success in things, it's easy to be very prideful.
Mhm.
So when things don't go your way, when you can't have the natural birth that you always envision, when you fail, I mean, that's what it was. I failed at having a natural birth, right? I couldn't do it. And I tried a couple times.
It's like I would hate to agree with that statement that you failed, but it didn't happen like you planned and thought it
Right.
would. Yeah.
And I think that was good for me because it helps me be more tenderhearted with others, to be more humble, to understand that there are lots of stories out there and it's not always going to go A, B, C, D. Sometimes
Yeah.
it goes W, X, Y, right?
Right.
So I think that he will continue to use that. But even though it was really hard, I'm grateful, right? Like James says, when you face trials and tribulations of many kinds, to consider it an occasion for great joy because we know that through that, God makes us perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If we don't go through hard things, like how are we going to be shaped into the image of his son, right? From one degree of glory to the next, we are being shaped by the difficult things and the good things, but certainly difficult things too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your heart and your stories, and just taking the time to do this. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's good to talk through these things out loud because then you're really reflecting on them and can grow it even more. And hopefully some people who are listening can grow as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. Oh, well, I'm going to pee now because I'm a little bit further along than you.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, due in November. So I'm like in that I have to pee all the time phase. And I have 2 kidneys. So we're working really well in that department.
I'm glad you have 2 kidneys.
I mean, as far as I
That's
know,
funny.
I guess I really don't know.
I always thought I
Like,
did too.
So maybe I don't, but as far as I know, I do.